Hello and welcome. Today we've got Michelle Fielding, and today we are going to be discussing central bank and digital currency. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. As long as me and Michelle choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Michelle, thank you for joining me. How are you? And first of all, what have you been up to?
Well, it's very hot today, isn't it? No wonder we can't get our words out, Nick. So I've been enjoying the sunshine and really just been working on getting this interview together today for you and for our viewers. So I'm looking forward to getting an update out to the people.
Absolutely. Now, I know people are always watching us for the first time sometimes, Michelle, and I want to just clarify what you do. And what you do is you channel, okay? And what this essentially is when you raise your vibration, you center yourself, and you're able to get visions through the pineal gland. And everyone has this ability, everyone. And it's been shut down by fluoride and the way we eat, our lifestyles, stress, and just being all over the place and not being centered. And there are so many people, and you're one of them, who are able to have visions and channel information. Now, back when we first started, I was so unfamiliar with what channeling was because I was always learning and asking questions, and I still do. And you came to me and we had interviews, and before Biden got in, you said to me that Biden would be inaugurated, and you were the first and only person to say this. You also said that Facebook would rebrand months and months before they rebranded to Meta, and they rebranded. And also you were the first to speak about Elon Musk and the quantum financial system, that Elon Musk has a lot to play, a lot to do with this, and Edward Snowden as well, 2 years ago. And now they're speaking about free energy. He's very on the world stage now, Elon Musk, and Edward Snowden is very much talking about the quantum financial system or quantum, if you like. So it's very interesting, and I just love listening to you now, what you've got to say, because it's just so interesting and it makes a lot of sense. And I want to just let people know that. Now, would you like to tell people today that you don't really know much about digital currency as central bank? And you said to me just before we began that you like to, channel and then you do the research. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that before we go into the channeling?
So thanks for that introduction. I just wanted to clarify a little bit about channeling. Yes, it does involve visions sometimes, which some people call remote viewing. So you can kind of have a thought and you can view a location in your mind. And so that sometimes gives you information. And channeling is where you connect with the person that wants to give you the information and you bring it in different ways. Some people do it through what's called voice channeling, so they're able to bring an entity through them and talk it through at the same time. But the way that I work is that I do something with a pen and a paper, and I write down the question, and then I hear what they are answering in my mind. And depending on what the subject matter is dependent on who comes through, because obviously these are different subjects. So if I was teaching a spiritual teaching, I would probably get an ascended master coming through. And if I'm teaching a practical subject like today to do with banking, it would be somebody like a spiritual guide who has an interest in banking. So it's just so that people understand who and what you're talking to and listening to. And the best way to channel is, for me, I find, is to not really know anything about a subject. So all you have written down is your own personal questions. So you say, I don't understand what this central bank digital currency is. You start writing down what your questions would be. And then you do the channeling based on the questions that are that you've got written down. And then as you get into a conversation, you can go back and forth and they can explain further. But what that means is you get a cleaner, purer message, if you like, because you're not being influenced by anything that you already have in your opinion. So if you know something very well, you can be blindsided by your subjectivity or your emotional attachment to something. But when you channel, a good channeler will not have an emotional attachment to what they're channeling. They will be outside of it. And that's how you keep it pure and clean. Okay? So I just wanted to make that clear to people. So today I've been trying to get some more information about the central bank digital currencies, which we were talking about last time, because it created a lot more questions from people. And some of the things we say today might be a repeat of what we said before, but we've got some new information to add to it. And hopefully we are getting a clearer picture as we go. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes what I remember, I used to call you and say, Michelle, could you channel this? And you would keep telling me, Nicholas, you would say to me, it's not that easy. It's, it takes a lot of energy. I've got to, and it's very difficult, right? So it takes a lot of time and preparation. And I don't think people realize how much preparation and energy you need for this. Can you explain a little bit about that as well before we get into it, Michelle?
Well, the main thing about when you're speaking to your guides or an ascended master is that they can only speak the truth. They can only speak in answer to what you ask them. They can't put in their own opinion and their subjective viewpoint. They can only speak in a way that's truthful and with honesty and integrity. So the most important part about channeling is having your questions written in a way that they can answer you clearly. So it's no good having your questions in a vague layout or too long or too convoluted. It's got to be very succinct and easily positioned in a way that they can answer you from a truthful position. And so sometimes it's not necessarily that you've got a channeling wrong. It's that you might have asked the question in a way that they couldn't answer it any other way. And so it appears like you have your information inaccurate. And then as you learn more about the subject matter, you can then reposition the question and go in again. So the hardest part of it all is the prep. When you're actually sitting and channeling, yes, you have to keep a high frequency, and doing that for a number of hours can obviously take its toll. But the hardest part is trying to find what are the questions to a subject that you don't know anything about. And so you have to do it from a viewpoint of, if I don't know anything about this conversation and I'm going in to see somebody that does, what would I be saying to them in real life? I was coming to meet you now, Nick, and we were going to sit down and you were an expert in central bank digital currency. I would just say to you, right, I don't understand it. What does this mean? What does that mean? And you would just answer me. And it's exactly the same in a channeling interview.
Very interesting. Why don't I just sit back now with the viewers and we're going to listen to all the questions and answers that you've got in the last few weeks, because I know you've been working really hard, probably the last couple of months. And then at the end, we can go ahead with some questions and answers. How does that sound?
Yeah. Okay.
Our normal classic way.
We'll do our normal routine, which everyone seems to enjoy. So that's good, isn't it? We like that.
Absolutely.
So the questions are not in any particular order. So I'll just run through them as they came out in my pad over the weeks. And then hopefully they will be clear. But if not, we'll just do our normal thing where you can ask me at the end. And if I know the answer, I will help you. So first of all, I asked them, what does an RV, i.e. a reevaluation of currency, what does that actually mean? Because we hear this a lot, when we're going to go into RV, will there be an RV? When's the RV going to happen? And that word is reevaluation. So I wanted to know, what does reevaluation actually mean from their viewpoint? And they said that reevaluation is the leveling out of all currency around the world, regardless of your border or your time zone, so that it equals 1 for 1. So the example they gave is that one new currency denomination will be worth one new currency denomination worldwide. So I said to them, will the new currency denomination be a physical currency or a digital currency? Because, everyone's really confused about this, I think. And they said to me that the new currency denominations will mostly be digital, with the exception of physical gold and silver, which I thought was very interesting. So then I said to them, for the reevaluation, which is going to happen under NESARA and JSARA, and for it to go ahead, will all the banks need to be listed as a CBDC bank? Now, CBDC stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. And we talked about this in our last interview. So if people are only hearing this for the first time, they could go back and listen to that interview for a bit more information.
So people are thinking, when they say central bank, people are thinking, oh, New World Order, deep state, could you explain why would we still be going through a central bank system, or how would it be operated this time? And you probably have the answer now. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So when you look online at what a CBDC is, it really does look like the old system. And they are still talking about it being run under the fiat system with central reserve and things like that. But what you and I have been discussing for some months is that this system is going to be regulated under something called Starlink, which is a whole system of connectivity around the world and regulation. And that anything within the new financial setup will be backed by gold. Now, you can't find that anywhere on the internet at the moment. If you're doing research, you can't find that. But when we've been channeling this for some time, they've been telling me that that's how it's going to work. So the reason it's not going to be a controlling system is because Starlink has been set up in a way, or is being set up in such a way, that countries have to sign in to the rules of being on that system. And the two main assets of being, the two main points of being on the Starlink system and regulated under it are that you, first of all, have to have peace with other countries. And secondly, you have to have peace with your own citizens. And if you don't abide by those two main regulations, obviously there will be many others, then you could be shut out of that worldwide Starlink system. And the reason countries wouldn't want to be shut out of that system is because it's going to offer so many benefits in terms of internet and banking and military and healthcare and energy. And I think as I go through my questions today, I think that will come up again. So we'll be able to go through that again in a little while. So my question before that was, for this reevaluation under NESARA and JSARA to go ahead, do all the banks need to be listed as a CBDC bank? And they said no. They said that NESARA JSARA is already being implemented at many levels, mainly through a plan of devolution. However, the currency aspects of reevaluation, known as the RV, are still being designed and structured policy-wise. So don't confuse that with they're still setting up Starlink or that type of thing. They have all the infrastructure at the centralized location up and running, But what they're waiting for is to get the policy correct and the regulation correct. So they're saying to me, it's not a clear picture yet as to the full intentions of how physical currency may look going forward. So I don't think they've decided fully yet. They're saying that the strategy is being tentatively implemented. So then I said to them, so will all banks need to be a CBDC bank in the future? And they said, no, there will be a combination of digital and physical banking in the future, but the physical asset is likely to be gold and silver only and no fiat money. So I said, so will physical assets be like gold-edged notes, for instance? Would we have like a note, a paper note, but it would have gold perhaps running through it or around it? And they said, not exactly. They said future physical asset will need to be encrypted in some way under the quantum financial system. Otherwise, it will not be a valid form of currency going forward. So I said, so will this encryption, so I said, this encryption, how will that be assigned to the physical assets in the future? So obviously if it's on a digital system, it can be encrypted. But if you've got something physical in your hand, I was asking, how could it be encrypted? And they're saying that this part is still being decided. And I said, is this what's holding up the re-evaluation of currencies worldwide? And they said it's not being held up for those that are going into the CBDCs, as they are already encrypted with the quantum financial system, the blockchain. So I said, are we saying that currency reevaluation is really in two forms or two stages? The physical currency over here and the digital currency over here? And they said yes. And so the RV, the reevaluation, is being held up because they might have the digital one ready and in place, but they're still trying to work out what they're going to do with the physical currency. Because what it sounds like they're trying to do is they're trying to get rid of fiat, which is, we've known this for some time, and it looks like they're trying to replace it with a physical asset like gold or silver or precious metal. But their problem seems to be, how do they protect it? Do they need it encrypted? And this is the bit they don't yet have finalized. This is the bit where they're tentatively trying to make a plan of how that bit would go forward. So I said, will the digital re-evaluation, is that going to happen first then through the CBDC? And they said, not necessarily. It's not been decided if one will go before the other. And I said, is this part of the delay? And they said, yes, that is part of the delay, that they haven't decided yet. Are they going to have the two systems go live together? But some of the other delay is, again, around the quantum equipment that we are going to need, you and me, in order to bring the funds in. And obviously for the licensing of the end-to-end users. So that's the licensing, not just for you and me when we use our quantum equipment, but the licensing of the countries that still are signing in. And we've had this theme for some time, so I don't think I have to go necessarily over that today, but if people want to go back and listen to our previous interviews, we've talked about this system of having countries having to sign in so that they can be regulated under the Starlink system. So then I said, what is going to happen to any physical cash that is currently not in Cbdc after reevaluation? So if you've got cash and it's not being put into the Cbdc, which would now make it a digital, it would now be e-cash, what will happen to it? So if you've got £10,000 under the mattress, Nick, you've probably got 20,000 by now, but let's say you've got 10,000, okay, under the mattress. Then what would happen to it? What I was asking them what would happen after reevaluation to our £10,000 under the mattress. And they said that this is still undecided on the whole. So they haven't really come up with a solution, a final solution yet to how they're going to work with physical cash.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, and when I say physical cash, I'm talking about not just the fiat currency that you have under the mattress, but they haven't come up with, even if we're walking around with silver and gold coins in our hand, they haven't really come up with a complete solution yet to how that's going to look. So I said, what will happen to physical cash at reevaluation for the normal banks? So for the banks that aren't a Cbdc, what's going to happen at reevaluation to the cash in there? And they just said the same thing. It's still undecided. They haven't decided what they're going to do with that cash yet. Mm-hmm. And I said, so is there a new banking system? Is there going to be another new banking system then, which is going to be set up alongside the CbdCs? And they said that there is no new banking system away from the Cbdc, that is the new system. So I think we talked about that in the previous interview as well. And I said, so what's going to happen like to this old banking system when everybody moves on to the Cbdc? When it goes live, what's going to happen when all the customers move across? And they said there's going to be a natural transition as customers will realize that this digital system is faster, cheaper, and more secure. So I feel like it's going to be, you're not going to be forced to necessarily go onto that Cbdc system, but it's probably that you're going to find that you're going to want to. And that's how it's seeming that's how they seem to be explaining it to me at the moment. And then I said, so what's going to happen where you need to pay for something with physical cash in the future? And they said that in the future, gold and silver or other precious metals or assets like diamonds. So if you've got diamonds under the mattress, that might be okay. And you could use these for your physical transactions in the future. They're saying also, and this is probably some way down the line, they're saying that bartering will become more commonplace within communities as they become more self-sustainable. So you've got two things going on. They're trying to move away from the fiat cash in hand type system, and they're trying to put gold and silver in our hands or precious metals, or they did actually say diamonds, but I don't know how commonplace that might be. And they're also saying that as we get more into this system in the future, there'll be more bartering within communities. So that could be something as simple as somebody's very good at growing potatoes in your town, and you're very good at growing carrots, and you have an exchange system that goes on, something like that. So it looks again like they see the future very much as being devolved right down literally to your local community and to your street, to your neighbors. Okay, so let me just move on to the next. So then I asked about currencies like Zim, dinar, and dong, and are they going to be used in the reevaluation? And they said it will not be necessary. And I said, why will it not be necessary? And they said, because there's a safer, more secure system of money coming for everyone. And then I said, so what about the humanitarian projects and the Zim bonds? And they said, where people have legitimate Zim bonds that can be qualified, then funds will be available in time to set up humanitarian projects if necessary. And I said, if necessary. And they said that the new world is one of simplicity, equality, and oneness. So all people under the new system will be treated as equals and be allowed to live in their sovereignty and their freedom. This will be allowing for peace of mind and freedom from debt slavery. And the new system is a way to help all people live a life of bliss and pleasure, choosing to work in service from their heart and not from a need to survive in a debt system. They also said that robotics will replace the need for excessive manual tasks so that people can concentrate on their creative or artistic talents. And they said that homemakers will be cherished and community will move back to the older values of working together. They said that the need to commute to work away from your hometown or village will cease as home working and free time is now more freely adopted by big business and society. And they said that the family unit will be restored, creating more balanced communities and nurturing environments for children and teens. Just got to move to my other pad. So just going back to the reevaluation again, I just said in another notebook here, are the central bank digital currencies anything to do with reevaluation of physical cash like dinar, dong, and zim? So just carrying on from that subject. And they said no, because it's only, they said no, because physical currency is separate to digital currency and will be managed separately. They said physical cash in the form of notes is likely to be withdrawn and replaced, and they said again, by physical gold and silver or precious metals. And they said this is to prevent fraud, money laundering, and trafficking, and to keep all countries on a level playing field. Then they also said that every gold coin or silver coin or whatever it is, whatever precious asset you have, it will be valued the same all over the world. So what they meant by that was, and this I found very interesting, was if, say, you had a coin and it had 5 on it. So say we had one now, it would say €5 or £5 or $5, depending on which country you're in. What they were explaining to me was that the new currency, the new physical currency, it would just have a 5 on it. It wouldn't necessarily have a dollar or a euro or another currency name on it. They would all be exactly the same.
So just a number.
Just a number. So it might just say 5, we the people, for example. And then that coin, It wouldn't matter which country you went to, you could just present that same coin and it would be the same value.
And that's where we're going back to, oneness, unity, but with freedom and sovereignty and, peace.
And it's taking away also that need for when you go on any international travel to have that exchange going on, where you sometimes lose money or gain money, depending on which country you're going into, that monetary exchange. So sorry, go on.
No, please. Sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay. So this is just my understanding of it. This might not be, how it ends up, but this is how they've been explaining it to me. They said that every gold coin or silver or whatever physical asset you have will be valued the same all over the world. So, for example, if it's worth 5 in the UK, it will be worth 5 in another country. So currency exchange rates will no longer be required. And this is what you just said, Nick. The world is moving towards oneness of purpose, oneness of all beings in mind, body, and soul. No competition, only heartfelt transactions. No dark money or illegal activity. God's money, gold, silver, and precious metals vibrates with a higher consciousness, allowing transactions to be made from the heart more easily. And they said to me that even the sight of gold or silver will help you to open your heart. And if anyone's actually handled a pure gold or silver coin, it really does do that. I mean, you look at it and it does help you kind of open your heart.
Very interesting you say that. And all these different currencies and different religions and different continents and countries and treaties, this all divide and conquer. That's all it is. So they're getting rid of that divide and conquer narrative that the deep state has put. And they are putting us in oneness, but not the New World Order oneness, or if you like, but because that's communism and that's control. But this is sovereignty, freedom, peace, togetherness, like a family, united.
So the systems, like the financial systems, like the New World Order reset, financial reset, they do look very similar, but it's not about what the system is, it's who's in control of it. And with the Starlink system, which I'm going to go into a little bit more again in a minute, you'll see as I go through how it's going to be overseen by the military. And the military have no political affiliation. So I'll go into that a bit more in a minute. So I won't talk about that now. We'll get on to that. So I said, is the central bank digital currency a separate banking system to the gold and silver transactions? And they said yes and no. They said that the CBDCs will also hold precious metals as security to back any digital transactions. So the CBDC, it works with gold and silver to back whatever it's doing on a digital level. Now, when I've looked online, it doesn't say that at the moment, because obviously, nothing that we can find on Google ever says what's really going on. But they've told me repeatedly that the systems will be backed by gold and regulated under Starlink. Mm-hmm. So then I just wanted to ask about a little bit about crypto. And the one that everyone kind of knows about is Bitcoin. So I just use that as an example. I said, is Bitcoin registered to the CBDC and backed by gold? And they said, not in this moment, but maybe in the future. So then I said, how are the governments going to transfer people onto the central bank digital currency system? They said it's going to be a gradual process of changing people onto the digital system so that they will become less reliant on the cash that we currently have. the fiat money. And they said this, to the most part, is already the norm anyway, because they were saying that most people nowadays already sort of pay with their card or their electronic transfer system. I mean, everywhere I go, I do everything with my card or my phone. I think most people do. So they were saying that most people are already sort of doing that anyway. But it's just that in the future, if you did want to use cash, you'd be using gold or silver, not the fiat.
Mm-hmm.
I said, is registration done and approved for the CBDCs to be set up worldwide? And they said, not yet. They said most countries are signed in, around 90% are signed in. And then I said, is the Starlink infrastructure part of this CBDC setup? And they said yes, that the Starlink connectivity is integral to this system. So again, this is where they're talking about the systems joining together. So the CBDC is not running alone. It's got to link in to that Starlink registered system. And I said, what are we going to experience on the ground? You know, how is this going to look in practical terms, you and me, you know, when it switches over to the CBDC? And they said that mostly the public is not even going to be aware of the switch, as most of the infrastructure is already in place. But they said new technology and software will gradually be introduced to sync up with the CBDCs. I said, is this like the new quantum equipment and these digital wallets? They said the new equipment is important, but they said that wallets won't be necessary. And I don't know if I really understand that yet. So just bear with me on that. I might need to do another session for that. But they said it's more about changing your perspective on the new banking setup and allowing people to feel comfortable with trading without physical notes in their hand. And they will need to be more comfortable with digital transfers. And they're saying that physical transactions will only be gold or silver. And it's unlikely that in the future, notes will continue or physical currency other than silver or gold or precious metal will go ahead. But this is still being decided overall. So they have kept saying that we're going to gold and silver, but this, as they were saying at the beginning, they're not rushing it. They're doing everything very slowly and making sure it's going to work out. So they're not just all going to, you're not just going to wake up tomorrow morning and it's all going to switch to a new system. It sounds like it's going to be very, very slow and gradual. And it's almost like they're kind of testing it as they go. So then I sort of said, how is the world, in what ways are our lives going to be sort of looking different going forward? Not just to do with the banking system, but just generally, really. And they said that there's going to be less emphasis on the 9 to 5, and there's going to be a lot more remote and teleworking. And they said there's going to be less emphasis on work in general, actually. There's going to be more emphasis on your leisure time, your happiness, your peace, recreation, and community. And they did say that menial jobs will become digital or automated. And then I said, so what are the next sort of day-to-day moves on the financial side regarding the White Hat plan? What are they sort of looking to do? They're saying that the banks will downsize and investment will move away from stocks and shares and crypto and more towards gold and silver. So that was interesting. They said it's going to move away from stocks, shares, and crypto towards gold and silver. More companies will introduce payment systems designed to work with the CBDC within their country. So that's what we're looking at. This is what the next stages are of the White Hat plan. Again, they just said to me that coinage will not be stamped with like a boundary on it or a country name or a currency name. Everything will be equal. So they just reiterated that. I've got one last little bit for you on the currency, Nick. I'll just find it in this pad here. Sorry, I've got lots of pads on the go at the moment. I haven't got access to a photocopier at the moment, so I have to work from my numerous notebooks. I asked, will the central bank digital currencies, which apps or digital wallets will they use? Because a minute ago, they said to us they weren't going to use a digital wallet. And I'm not really sure that I understand all that anyways, but I did ask them. And they said there will be none. They said the central bank digital currency will run directly through blockchain to the end user via a quantum encrypted device like a phone, a laptop, or a hologram. And so they didn't, I don't even know if any of that is a digital wallet, but they're kind of suggesting to me that a digital wallet and these quantum devices are not the same thing. So
it might be a piece of technology that we are really unaware of. It's very advanced, probably ancient because it's been hidden from us.
Yeah.
And, it's, when they put all these sci-fi movies and fictional stuff on the television and movies to make us think it's not real, but really a lot of them are real, and they want us to think that it's not real because they've hid it from us in history and so much more, and they've just made us go so backwards and divided. But it looks like there's so much more when we look at time travel with Nikola Tesla. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's just so much information, with free energy and the things that Nikola Tesla was doing. It looks like slowly they are going to give it back to us. I mean, things don't last forever. If the dark side is going to be in power for so long, and it's just a matter of time until it's over for them. And it's been so many thousands of years. And, it looks like we're living in a time where we're seeing this in history.
Yeah. So, I mean, also I hear a lot of people talking, I think you've mentioned about the lobster, and I think that's a digital wallet. And I've heard of others. I haven't really looked into that deeply yet, but it just seems to be, they seem to be saying we won't necessarily be having a digital wallet on the CBDC side, at least. What we're going to be doing with crypto, that might be something different.
Unless there's an overlap. So they might start off giving us some digital wallets before they come up with the real, new technology that's really advanced. So there might be like an overlap, to slowly get people used to this, the new system, the system we know it without the cabal.
I think you're right, Nick, because this is a huge task that they're trying to undertake. And this is why I keep getting this feeling that everything's very slow, very tentative. They take a little step, they see how it goes, they wait. They're not in any rush to bring in any new systems. Your background's gone off, Nick.
Just give me a second.
So the central bank, it would appear, is not going to use a digital wallet like in the way we've been talking about before with lobster and things, but maybe what you were saying, Nick, is that there might be a handover process where they might use digital wallets initially, or other different types of technology. We don't, I think they just don't really know yet how that bit's going to work. I get the impression when they're explaining it to me that they're doing everything very slowly and tentatively, and they're just kind of doing one step, seeing how it plays out. And maybe they've got lots of options available to them, and they're not really sure which one is going to be the best one yet. And maybe at the end of the day, they might use all of them. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I said, are we going to need these Pi phones, Tesla, quantum phones, all those types of things in order to use these CBDCs? And they said all the above. So I'm quite excited to get my Pi phone or my Tesla phone. I said, are the CBDCs now operating And are they being set up in every country? And they said, no. They said that only those countries that want to be part of the global Starlink system are actually setting up CBDCs. They said that most countries, though, will join because of the overall protection and benefits that they're going to get from the Starlink system. And I said, what protection benefits would that be? And they said the safety of obviously money transfers, because if you're a bank, you obviously want to be sure that that's going to be safe, and any activity within the bank. They also want to be part of the Starlink system because it's going to have safety for the people and safety for the constant supply of power in whatever form that might take in the future, whether that's like electric, nuclear, or, or natural sort of green energy. They also said about free energy. And I asked them, free energy. And they said eventually, as everyone signs in, all the countries sign in to Starlink, then the power will change to free, sustainable power options for homes and businesses. And they said that previously untapped sources of natural power solutions will be promoted at no cost to the public. And this is something that people have been asking me about before, like, where's this free energy that we've been promised? It is coming. They have told me it's coming. And I've said, what sort of power, will it be, this free energy? And they said it'll be air, water, sun, Tesla coils, and magnetic. So again, they've got quite a lot of options there. How they're going to set it up. I said, are the central bank digital currencies of all countries, are they going to all run through the Starlink? And they said, yes, this is the point of the Starlink. So again, I'm just checking. This is the point of them having to register. Everything will be standardized and regulated at that central level. Then I said, will the reevaluation mean that all currency becomes digital? And they said, no, some types of currency will remain physical, but only where countries stay outside of the CBDC system. So that was quite interesting, because now they're saying that, the physical currencies might only stay in countries where they're not signed in. So eventually it looks like they are, like I was saying before, the CBDC is going to move us away from fiat currency, and you're just going to be using gold and silver. But in the countries where they don't sign in, they'll still be able to use the old fiat system.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, is there an advantage to them doing that? These countries that don't sign in, is there an advantage to them staying outside and not coming into the central bank digital currency system? And they said that longer term, no, there's no advantage to them, because they're saying that this system with Starlink is protected in the longer term. It will be protecting the citizens and allowing for free movement and devolution of power. They said eventually all countries will move across to the CBDC system as they're going to witness its benefits. The benefits of safer transactions online, stopping trafficking, free movement, free energy, and devolved government. I said, will we have any crypto options within the CBDC? And they said no. They said that each country will operate its own official cryptocurrency, which will be licensed, regulated, and backed by gold. So it's sounding like we're going to have a central bank system, but there will be an alternative system of crypto but it will need to be, again, licensed and regulated and backed by gold.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what will happen to the other crypto options? So they were saying that if they're regulated and registered and backed by gold or precious metal or assets, then they will continue. But they were saying that they won't fall under the CBDC umbrella. So it sounds like the CBDC is just for digital currency, and that the cryptocurrencies will also need to be licensed and backed by gold, but they will run under a different system. They're not going to fall under the central bank system. And I said, which one is going to be safer or freer? And they said, neither will be safer or freer, as they will all be regulated and backed by precious metals. And it will just be a way to create consumer choice. So you'll be able to choose, do I want to have all my money in a digital form over here with the CBDC? Or do I want to have it all in, let's say Bitcoin is registered and backed by gold. Do I want to have it all in Bitcoin? Or do I just want to have the physical asset of gold and silver in my hand? So we're still going to have lots of options of how we pay for things and how we manage our money, but it's just that they're all going to be regulated in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then I said, the CBD, though, they're government run, is that right? I said to them. And they said something very interesting, which we have talked about before. They're saying that in the future, the government will be restructured throughout the world. And so it's not going to be able to control money in the same way. So the CBDC is not going to be controlled by Boris Johnson in the UK in the future, because we're not going to have a government structure like that anymore. So I said, can they explain this to us a bit deeper? They said, in the future, the devolved government will mean that people will choose financial channels from Starlink, which will be overseen by military guardians. So when they say financial channels, it means you and me will be able to decide, do we want digital? Do we want crypto? And it will be overseen by military guardians, not by Boris Johnson or not by your prime minister or your president, wherever you are in the world. So then I said, will these military guardians be AI? Because this is another thing that worries people. And they said, no. They said the military guardians will be apolitical and they will act as commander-in-chief of the new Starlink system. And there will be no need for presidents, prime ministers, or governments in their current form. They said that power will run from the grassroots up by we the people. So I said, so the military guardians will just oversee the maintenance of the physical structure, not the policy. And they said eventually, yes, policy will be governed by the people at the devolved level. And we have talked about that before, Nick, in previous interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Then I asked about XRP, just as examples. I don't know all the names of crypto. So I just said, will things like XRP, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, are they going to be part of the new worldwide CBDC or other cryptocurrencies? And they said that some will go forward as alternatives to the CBDCs, but it has not yet been decided what they will be called or which ones. So again, we're back to that. They're being very tentative with what they're going to use, what they're going to call it, and which ones are going to be allowed to be licensed.
Mm-hmm.
I said, will people lose money on the crypto that they currently hold? So if the government decided we're not going to use Bitcoin, we're going to use we the people crypto, what will happen to our Bitcoin? And so I said, will people lose their crypto? They said, if people have crypto that is currently regulated, then it will be exchanged 1-for-1 under the new CBDC digital system. And then I said, regulated, like, how do we know if it's regulated? And they're saying it has to be regulated by the country that they are currently registered in as a company. So I think that means that if you have created Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency and you're based in the USA, then it can only be regulated if you've registered it there. I think that's what it means. I'm not exactly 100% sure on that yet. That's another one that's a little bit complicated, and it's going to need me to go in a bit deeper. I said, is the reevaluation important for physical cash? And they said, no, not really, because in time, the physical cash that we currently use, fiat, is going to become obsolete, and only sort of digital coins will be used in the future, or the gold or the silver. And of course, these regulated cryptos. So then I said, you know, if people can afford to get gold and silver right now, should they go and get some? And they said it definitely will be an option of how you can purchase things in the future. So it's not like the whole system is not going to be available to everyone to use anyway. All the other systems will be available to everyone. But if you would like to have the additional option of using a physical asset, then they're saying that gold and silver is probably the way to go. I said, how will these digital assets be free of fraud in the future? Like, will they require, say, like an eye scan or a thumbprint or something like that? They said, it is possible that the quantum technology, like the phones, the laptops, etc., will incorporate a safety feature like a thumb or a fingerprint or a retina scan, so that no one else can access your account if you were to, say, like, step away from your computer. They said, however, the encryption on each coin would make it traceable, so longer term fraud would be easily traceable.
Okay.
So I think that's really everything for today.
Wow, that's very interesting. Right. I'm going to whiz through some questions because we're running out of time.
I know. We soon use up our hour.
Okay, so you say that partially, you know, cash, fiat currency, physical cash is going to be replaced by silver and gold as a physical option. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that if we invest in silver and gold now, that it could go up and it would be a good investment?
That I don't know, because I don't have any financial training.
Okay.
But I suppose what it does do is it allows people to have the peace of mind that if they didn't feel secure with having everything in an e-format, a digital format, or they just wanted to go down the road to buy a pound of carrots or something, that they could still use a physical form of currency.
The other thing I want to ask is, as they're rolling this out, you mentioned something very interesting earlier. You said Nasara is being implemented via or through devolution. So as they're implementing Nasara and this new system with Starlink and this, you know, sovereignty, and, you know, they even seems to have the time that they, you know, there's been a few delays because they're deciding, you know, what to do with this and what to do with that. What deep state challenges are they facing?
That I don't actually know, because I always get told that the white hats are in control and that everything that we're seeing playing out is all been designed to go the way it's going. So even like where we're sort of looking at the world now, and we've got inflation and supposed sort of food shortages and things like that. In the broader sense, it's all those things that are going to take us to this new world. Because as things become more expensive, we're going to have to start coming back to our community and helping each other. And it's going to help us to bring in these new technologies, because if prices of fuel and things are getting higher and higher, gas and electric's getting higher and higher, they're going to have to find alternatives. Maybe that's the way, it's through the hardship that we bring in these new things, so that people can, get to the point where they don't want to go down that old road anymore. So I don't actually know what the challenges are, because I'm always told that the white hats have everything under control.
I mean, that could also be true, that they do have everything under control, but that doesn't mean that they may not be facing challenges. So maybe that's a question that we could ask next time, if you think that's appropriate.
The challenges I can think of to do with what we've been talking about today are, about physically getting the equipment made, which we've talked about before, physically getting the concept that we have up here down to the people, and doing it in a way that doesn't scare anybody. We don't go too quickly so that the whole thing doesn't collapse, and that we have technology where it is actually safe for them to hand it to us and for us to do our banking on our own without that middleman, so that they can strip out that government layer that we don't need anymore. But all those things take time.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where they're being held up, and that's their challenge, if you like, is how do you go from a very structured system, which is what we've always had for so long, to freeing it right up and letting people make the decisions and literally turning it all around.
You mentioned that silver and gold was going to be used as an option as physical currency, but it hasn't been quite decided how they're going to do that. Why is it the case that after all of these years, they haven't decided how they're going to do that?
I think the reason is because they don't know how, when they make each step forward, they don't know what the deep state might have that they could retaliate with, maybe. So it's not so much, it's more about just seeing, if we try this, what pushback are we going to get? So I think they know in their mind where they want to go, but rather than going in too quickly, they would rather do it in stages to see if there's anything that they may have forgotten, or anything that might come at them that they need to rebalance what they're doing, readdress what they're doing.
That's a good answer, Michelle.
That's the feeling I'm kind of getting from them, is that they've got a plan. They know what the outcome is. They know where they want to be. So they know they're at A. They know that that's where they want to be over here at B. But the problem is, which road do we take? And they might start on a road, and then they might decide, actually, we might go a different route. But they know what the outcome is, but they're just navigating their way towards it. That's the way I feel.
So once we go into the new system, and our currencies or our own monies now, which has been transitioned into the new system, which is tangible, which is backed by gold and silver, which has been licensed, which is in a sovereign, free, transparent system, a white hat system moving forward for the free world, or the new earth, if you like. What's going to happen, for instance, to somebody's £10,000 loan they took out for a car in the old system, where they borrowed that money, okay, that was not real money. It wasn't backed by any tangible assets, backed by thin air, printed out and made from thin air and debt and interest. What happens to that loan? Does that person still have to pay back that loan?
So I don't actually know the answer to that personally, but I feel that from what they've been teaching me, that we're all going to be financially in a different system entirely. And so we're all going to be in a different place in our life financially, that maybe those loans won't be significant to us as they used to be in terms of paying them back. So maybe we're going to be far, far richer. Who knows? We might have more phenomenal wealth than we thought we were going to have.
But it's not just about being richer. It's the principle. Even if we're rich enough to afford to pay them off, well, why should we, out of principle, if it was taken out fraudulently and it's not tangible?
So I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, I have been hearing from some people that they have had their loans and their mortgages released, and paid off. So I would imagine that if that's already happened and that those were on the old system, that anybody that was on the old system would have that eventually. But maybe the delay in seeing that is because, as we've been saying throughout this interview today, is that they're just doing things in incremental steps. So who knows why some people are having it paid off first and others haven't heard about that yet. I don't know what system they might be using, but that could be why we're only seeing it happens in certain regions or certain places, and it's not everybody all at once having their mortgages relieved.
How about income tax? I understand that taxes may be adjusted, VAT may be adjusted, but income tax, how about that? What do you think that will happen to that? And how far are we away from the abolishment of income tax?
So I think that when I've been I haven't channeled this recently, but in the past, they've said to me that income tax would go because that keeps us in that debt slavery system, which they've said today again, that's going to go. When that's going to happen, I haven't channeled this recently, but my feeling is this is going to take, I'm sort of getting between 2023 to 25. There's going to be a lot of changes with restructuring of government organizations, politics. And so I think that's when we're going to start seeing the changes with the tax system. I do still think that, as we've been told before, that brand new items will still have a tax on them, like cars or, that sort of thing. But I think any sort of taxation to us personally as sovereign beings, I think that will be halted. And as I said, the timeline I'm feeling right now is between 23 and 25.
Okay, so...
And I'm feeling that I used to get that just for the UK, but I'm starting to feel that is kind of how we're going to be going throughout the entire world. 23 to 25, you're going to see that taxation on individuals being released. In some areas, it will take up until, I think, 2028. But I think the majority of developed countries will be 23 to 25.
Interesting. Well, Michelle Fielding, it's been an absolute honor to have you and share your channeling with us on the central bank and digital currency. It's been very, very interesting. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Only that, at first this all sounds very sort of scary and, like you're going to lose money or you're not going to understand the new system and there's going to be control. And actually, I think it's going to give us a lot more freedom because you can have lots of choice. You can either just do the system that you do now, go in and pay with your card on the digital system. You can have gold or silver in your pocket. Or if you like the sound of Bitcoin or whatever crypto they're going to register at the time, you'll be able to use that. You can have a lot of options and you're going to be living in a much nicer community where you can, if you want to, just barter whatever you're good at for something that someone else has. If you're good at art, you'll be able to create a painting that someone loves, and they'll come and do something for you in exchange. Maybe they're good at plumbing and they'll plumb in your washing machine, and you'll exchange it for some of your artwork. And I think we're going more towards that kind of community and society, and that can only be a good thing.
Well, Michelle, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And we will catch up very soon when you've got more channeling. I can't wait to read the comments from the viewers. It's because I do take that into consideration for our other interviews. Thank you very much. It's been fantastic. I really enjoyed this interview. Thank you. And we'll speak soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Lovely to see you. Bye now.